But do you have some steps to give to the audience for the investment, especially in the low cost ETF?
Sure. In fact, I have a video on my YouTube channel about this topic. It's called 8 Steps for ETF Investment Success. And it goes as follows. So first off, it starts by basically paying any credit card debt you have, or any debt for that matter. And the reason why, and maybe this is something we did not touch upon earlier in the discussion, if you have a credit card debt, the interest you're paying on that card debt is close to 45% per year. It's crazy. So there's nothing on planet Earth, in my humble opinion, that can basically there's no return that can overcome or that can exceed that 45% per year consistent.
I'm sorry, I'm disrupting you here, but for the legal scams, this is one of the legal scam as well. The credit cards companies will always tell you monthly rates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they tell 3%, but hey, or 3.5%, but that is 3.5%. If you read the asterisk and the fine print, it's 3.3 to 3.5% per month.
Yes.
So the annual interest rate is basically close to 45%, which is outrageous. So first thing first, if you have credit card debt, don't you even consider investing in anything. Just go and make sure that you are basically paying off your credit card debt. Again, by living within your means, by making sure that you are paying that credit card. So this is the first step. The second step is basically to have some to build an emergency fund. An emergency fund that, like you mentioned earlier, is to put aside some money for a rainy day. For example, if my car breaks, or if I had to do some emergency repairs for the house, or if for whatever reason I had to travel for a family emergency, or whatever the case might be. So having usually 3, 6, or some people will stretch it even more. Let's say the average is 6 months worth of living expenses tucked away in an emergency fund, usually typically in a bank account that is easily accessible. So people sometimes try to optimize and get higher returns on that emergency fund. Great if you could do it, but that's not the purpose of the emergency fund. So emergency fund is just there for emergencies. So again, number 1, pay off your credit card debt. Number 2, build an emergency fund. Number 3, put some plan in place. And what do I mean by plan? And I kind of explain it in detail in one of my videos. So a plan is about deciding what ETFs you want to buy, your saving rate, which is the percentage of your salary you want to save and invest each month, and you pick the ETFs you invest in, and then you choose your asset allocation. Maybe this is something we didn't cover earlier. Asset allocation is the percentage of, let's say, stocks to bonds or different kind of asset classes inside your portfolio. And to quickly address this, the higher the percentage of stocks, the higher your long-term expected returns, but that means it's a bumpier ride.
And it depends on age as well.
It depends on age, but to me, it depends more on your risk tolerance. Because many people, they say, oh, you know what, I'm young and I can put everything in stocks. That's great. And we know that over time, stocks have returned 10% on average per year over the long term. But in shorter period of times, stocks could actually fall real bad. So the question is, when the stock market falls, because it does every once in a while, would you still continue investing, or would you still maintain the plan? Many people will have second guesses and they withdraw. And this is one of the mistakes that many people do. They run and withdraw their money instead of keeping up and continuing with their investments.
So there is no system for them.
Exactly, because there is no system for them. So going back to the system thing, document your strategy or your system in it's a one-page document just for you to keep, because we are emotional creatures. When the stock market will dip, we will panic and we will tend to sell. But if you read those on a piece of paper that I'm not gonna sell, I'm investing that amount each month, whatever, no matter what happens in the stock market, I'm gonna buy my ETF on that particular day of the month, no matter whether the market is up, down, I don't care. So as long as you have those documented in place, your emotions are gonna take over. So have those documented so that you don't let your emotions drive the show.
Right.
Step number 4 is basically to open a trading account or an investment account.
Mm-hmm.
And then we reach the point where you transfer money each month or whatever you can into that account. You buy your ETF, and maybe once a year you rebalance. By rebalancing, I mean you always keep your asset allocation. For example, if I went for 60% stocks as an example and 40% bonds, these tend to change with time according to how the market moves. So rebalancing is always making sure that I have 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds, or whatever my allocation is basically rebalance. I mean, by rebalancing, I mean selling whatever went up and buying whatever went down, so that they always maintain the same balance over time. And the last two steps, I would say, number one, avoid investment mistakes. We briefly mentioned them, like don't panic and sell, don't try to chase past performance, don't try to chase the last shiny objects, don't try to outsmart the market, because you simply can't. Even the professionals can't. So what are the chances of someone that like you or me doing it, right? So don't get delusional and don't try to outsmart the market. And the last step is basically stay the course. And by staying the course, I mean continue adding money consistently. Like you mentioned earlier, consistency is key. It's just like going to the gym, right? You cannot go to the gym and expect to be super healthy or muscular in just a couple of times. You need to go to the gym repetitively 3 times a week or whatever the case might be. So consistency, and you need to maintain consistency when it comes to investing on a regular basis. And the last step, or the last step in my, or not in my, in the framework that we briefly described, is basically, so we said avoid investment mistakes. And the last one is basically stay away or ignore all financial news, because the news are there to get you. The newspapers are there to sell newspapers, or to get your click if it's like something that is scary, because I mean we get driven by fear, right, and by emotions. So whatever happens, just tune out all the noise, stay the course, continue adding money no matter what, because every single time there is a narrative that is usually and typically scary. Like, let's go back to March 2020. Oh, the COVID is bad. It's gonna crash all the economy. And look where we are today. I mean, it recovered and continued its upward trajectory. And that is not just in COVID. In 2007, 8, we had the same thing. In 2000, 2002, we had the same thing. So every single time, the narrative or the story is different, but it's a scary story. But then I can guarantee is a big word, but if we are to use the past as a teaching lesson for us, over the last 150 to 200 years, the stock market is resilient and it has always recovered. Not a single time. So every single time where there was a bear market, or let's say a correction or a drop in the market, it has corrected and continued its upwards trajectory. So I would say these are my 9 or the 9 steps framework that anyone can follow without knowing much about finance. Just, get your basics done, then invest regularly on a regular basis, whether monthly or quarterly. Tune out the noise and stay the course, and don't make the typical investment mistakes that we mentioned earlier.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
Thanks a lot.